This is Mario Murillo. He's a televangelist, and he is about as gullible as they come. And interestingly enough, he has deep issues with the LGBT community. When you mix those two things, gullibility and problems with the LGBT community, it never ends well. Listen to this clip from him. Came out October 11th, 2022. This is on a TV show called Flashpoint. Check this out.
But the devil overplayed his hand. You know, Gene, my son walked up to me last night and he said, "Dad, you got to see this post that's on Reddit."
I'm sorry for the choppy audio. There's something wrong with his audio at the time. Anyway, so his son walks up to him and says, "Dad, you've got to check this Reddit thing out. How much you want to bet?" This dude's a total boomer. That's his mindset. How much you want to bet he wants to appeal to boomers and doesn't want them to know that he browses Reddit from time to time. That would be like the ultimate betrayal among the evangelical, extremist, fundamentalist audience, right? Okay, so he claims that his son walks up to him with a Reddit post open. Now what?
And I looked at it and I couldn't believe it. Here's a 15-year-old boy that decided to tell his dad, "I don't want to be a girl after all." And the father is trying.
Okay, now let's pause here. No evidence for this, of course. No idea what post he's even talking about. You know, I've been on r/conservative. It is just a bizarre hellscape on that subreddit. Oh my God, is that a weird place to be? But that's neither here nor there. He didn't tell us the name of this person. He didn't tell us where they're from or who their dad is or where to even find the Reddit post or anything at all. No proof offered whatsoever. No evidence to speak of. He just states it as fact, and people believe it. This is what we like to call an anecdote, and it is absolutely worthless in the world of science or the world of knowledge or whatever else. It doesn't get us any closer to knowing the truth of an issue. And even worse, this is a completely anonymous anecdote. It is worth literally nothing to anybody. But okay, so let's hear it. Let's hear about this supposed trans person who wanted to detransition, whose name we don't know, whose story we can't find, who's completely anonymous.
And the father is trying to talk him into it still.
Wow.
Because he said, "You look good in a dress."
And there's the groomer narrative. These people, these televangelists and others, probably to some degree correctly, believe that the whole groomer narrative or accusation is productive and gets people pulled away from the left, gets them to believe that the left is evil and they're trying to corrupt our kids or whatever other nonsense. That's why they say things like this, because they think that it's going to further their goals of dragging people away from the left and toward the far right.
Wow.
Because he said, "You look good in a dress. I've paid all this money for the hormone blockers. And I want you to have the surgery because I love the way you look in a dress. You are far prettier when you're feminine."
Okay, this is complete nonsense. This, generally speaking, this is not how it works. From what I've read, generally speaking, when parents have a kid that comes out as trans, there's something of a mourning process, not because they don't want their kid to be themselves, not because they don't want them to have their own identity, not because they think this is the wrong decision or any of that stuff, but because they feel like the kid that they knew is a completely different person now, because their identity is forming out into something that they don't know or understand. It's something that the child knows and understands, but they do not. They may be perfectly supportive of the kid. They should be perfectly supportive of the trans kid, but they still a lot of the times feel a sense of loss or difficulty dealing with the feelings that come along with something like this. For the most part, from my understanding, the only reason anybody, any parent on the left would ever support their trans kid is because they want to support their trans kid. They don't have a vested interest in making their kid a woman instead of a man. They just want their kid to live their life and be happy and do what they want to do. Simple as that. And spending money on hormones or liking their kid, it's complete nonsense. So not only is this story anonymous, not only do we have no way to fact check any of this, and not only does this story not add to our overall view of the world anyways, even if it wasn't anonymous? But now he's stepping into just complete nonsense territory. Like, this doesn't add up at all. This is not how society works. But this is an area of society that their audience understands so little. They have so little experience with that they're willing to believe absolutely anything they're told about it. You know why? Because the people in the lives of the audience members on this are probably scared shitless of telling their family members that they're trans because they know they watch Flashpoint, because they know they're Donald Trump fans. The family members of the people watching this TV show right now would never have anything to do, or would never dare reveal the fact that they're trans or gay or whatever other thing. And as a result, these people are completely disconnected from the entire concept of transitioning and more gullible than ever as a result. More willing to believe absolutely anything told to them by Mario Murillo, this guy here. It's honestly sad. And this right here, this is the perfect reason why it's ideal for you to come out of the closet as gay, as trans, as whatever else, if it's safe. Don't do it unless you're safe. But the more people come out of the closet as gay or trans, the less they can ignore what's happening around them. The more accepting they'll be the next time somebody else comes out as trans. It's very important. So if it's possible and if it's safe, consider coming out as trans or gay or whatever it is that you are. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Anyway, let's keep listening to Mario Murillo just completely make shit up as far as I'm concerned.
Are prettier when you're feminine. See, this is what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. This is how far it's gone.
No, that's completely made up. That is not happening anywhere in the entire country. But okay, let's just run with it for the moment.
This is why people are rebelling and leaving the Democratic Party, because it is demonic. It is evil what's going on right now.
Yeah, completely made up. The dude is obsessed with making up bizarre stories and claiming he found it on, claiming his son found it on Reddit and showed it to him. The LGBT community is not his only target, though. He's been focusing heavily on mixing religion and politics together. Listen to this.
That said, Terry McCollum, he said parents should not have the final say on their children's education. Well,
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Parents shouldn't have the final say. A board who certifies a curriculum should have the final say. Now, if you want to bring the kid home at the end of the day and sit them down and explain, hey, I think that this is correct and that's incorrect or whatever else, hey, feel free. It's your life. It's a free country. Go nuts. But the kid should at the very least be exposed to a certain number of things. They should understand, at least at a low level, trigonometry, maybe some calculus, algebra certainly, maybe some linear algebra before they get out of high school in an ideal world. They should understand the basics of science, chemistry, biology. They should understand the basics of this stuff. A board should be certifying all of this stuff and making sure that students are learning these things. Yeah, there's nothing disagreeable about what he just said. Parents should not have the final say over what students as a body learn.
Well, that's what's done it, folks. And now the victory is ours. It's within our reach. We see it. We can taste it. And it's time for us to act.
Does it taste like your mom?
You know, the Bible says that when Paul was put in prison, in Philippians 1, he said these words, I want you to know that the things that have happened to me by being jailed have fallen out for the furtherance of the gospel. And he said, many of my brethren are now bolder. You're watching it across America.
So what Mario Murillo just explained to us is the reason why he is obsessed with spreading the idea of persecution through society. He wants to make his followers believe that they are persecuted. If he can make them believe they're persecuted, then it makes them more extreme, basically. He wants to radicalize the Flashpoint audience. He wants to make them think that they're mistreated so that they're more willing to do something about it. It creates a sense of camaraderie, group loyalty, and brotherhood. And that's why you see pretty much every cult through history weaponizing it against people.
pastors getting in their pulpit said, I'm sorry I was silent on gay marriage. Forgive me for not talking about the evil of abortion. I am now going to signal to the sheep of my congregation how to vote, how to speak up.
Okay, now, so what he's saying here is pastors are regretful that they didn't, quote unquote, get involved in politics by talking about gay marriage and abortion and stuff. That's never been banned in the first place. He's making up this fabricated fake persecution narrative where the government has been putting their boot on the neck of these Christians who never wanted to hurt anybody and preventing them from talking about politics or they would be put in jail. That's not actually what's happening at all. Completely made up. They were perfectly free to talk about politics to their heart's content with absolutely no limitations on that, except one. If they specifically endorse a specific candidate for public office, then they have to pay taxes. That's it. That's the only limitation. They're free to do it, but they have to pay taxes. There's never been a limitation on talking about abortion or gay marriage or any of the other stuff. This is the persecution narrative.
We no longer fear this vile and devilish amendment called the Johnson Amendment. That
Johnson Amendment is an amendment in IRS tax code that basically says if you specifically endorse a candidate for political office, you have to pay taxes. That's all it says. You can talk about gay marriage, you can talk about abortion, you can talk about absolutely anything. You just can't specifically say, I want you, my church, to go vote for Donald Trump on this day. That was a recipe to push people to pay taxes. Of course, the Johnson Amendment is not being prosecuted anyways. Cases of people breaking it doesn't matter. So they've been able to do this entire time anyways. He's just making up fake persecution for people to be outraged about so that they'll be radicalized.
Called the Johnson Amendment that has silenced pastors for so many decades. Now we're on the alert. Now we're on the attack. We're coming on the offensive. You know, people will love to call you names. They say, oh, you're a Christian nationalist. Let me give you a better word. You're a Christian rationalist.
Okay, now the reason that I included this section here about people are calling them Christian nationalists, that is actually what they are. They want to create a Christian state for Christians by Christians and remove non-Christians. They have a number of methods of doing so, which they don't usually like to get into. They're kind of slippery when you ask them how you're going to remove non-Christians. It really boils down to 2 or 3 different ways. The plan is to either deport them to another country or take them out or convert them. Those are usually the options that are given to people when you form out a new state, like a Christian state or whatever. There are 3 options: get out, convert, or die. In the long run, that is what Mario Murillo is pushing for. I watch this dude 5 days a week practically in various venues talking about his plans for domination over the United States. That's his goal. It's Christian nationalism. But his audience knows that. Why is he bringing it up? Because he recognizes that the label Christian nationalist doesn't really look good on them. He recognizes that the left, or more specifically, people to the left of him, people to the left of hunting the homeless for sport, have been sticking that label on them. And he recognizes that it's pushing the polls down. The reason I watch Flashpoint, or one of the many reasons, which is this TV show, the reason I watch it is because it gives me insight into the issues that these people believe are the most important. Sure, they lean into culture war issues, things that they think are benefiting them. The 13 soldiers who died during the Afghanistan exit, they talk about that constantly, even now, like a year or more after it happened. But they also talk about things that they think are affecting them negatively, and this is a perfect example. They think that the term Christian nationalist is negatively affecting them in the polls. And that is why they're trying to rehabilitate the term or change the term or give their audience retorts. Somebody's in your face and they say you're a Christian nationalist? No, turn around and say I'm a Christian rationalist. See, that is the strategy. Address things that they think are damaging them and flip it around. Give the audience a retort of some sort. That's why I watch it. Now let's keep listening to what retort he's trying to give his audience to the Christian nationalist accusation.
People will love to call you names. They say, oh, you're a Christian nationalist. Let me give you a better word. You're a Christian rationalist. You're somebody that is using common sense.
No, to all of that.
I'm not trying to get rid of democracy. I'm trying to save the very roots that brought our freedom to us.
No, again, no, he's not. He is actually trying to install a dictator in Donald Trump. But think about what he's doing. Once again, another issue. Christian nationalism and erasing democracy are related, but not the same exactly. He thinks that the fact that the left is talking about Christian nationalism and democracy is damaging them in the polls, and that's why he's bringing them both up. So he addressed the Christian nationalist accusation by telling people to retort with Christian rationalist, not Christian nationalist, and now he's giving them a retort for the accusation that they're destroying democracy.
Somebody that is using common sense. I'm not trying to get rid of democracy. I'm trying to save the very roots that brought our freedom to us.
I'm not trying to destroy democracy. You're trying to destroy democracy. I'm trying to fix democracy. That's the retort for his audience. It's subtle, but it's there.
And it is so disingenuous for the left to say that we're a threat to freedom. That is the polar opposite of what we are.
That's issue number 3. These are the issues that they believe are affecting them the most in the polls, and that's why they're providing the retorts.
And you need to say it. You see, you look at us on TV and you say, well, you guys are the experts. Are you kidding? The average everyday American has the power to be devastatingly effective to their friends and neighbors, suddenly speaking up. It does.
There you go. That exactly what I was saying here. He's trying to get these people to force their family members into these conversations to, quote unquote, set the record straight. They keep getting called Christian nationalists. They keep getting accused of destroying democracy and erasing freedom and all that stuff. Well, just flip it around just like that. Just flip it around on people. Accuse them of doing the thing that they're accusing you of doing. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. You know, in this old video from Mario Murillo, I was kind of going through my archive. If you didn't know, I actually collect all of my clips into one place that you can access by going to telltaleatheist.com/clips. It's a Dropbox account that has a list of every clip that I have ever used for the past 2 years, I think. It's in there, so check it out. It's kind of interesting. It's free. I'm not selling anything. It's just interesting to peruse through my clips. Anyway, I was going through my clips and I found this Mario Murillo video of him kind of laying bare his reasons for refusing to accept that Donald Trump lost the election. It wasn't the fact that he believed there's voter fraud. It wasn't any of that. You know what it really was? You know why this guy refused to accept that Trump lost? Listen.
You have one of two choices when you look at Biden. And the best answer is that it's fraud that put him in there. Because the other one is that America is really stupid.
If Biden actually did win, then it means that America disagrees with me, and I can't handle that. I can't deal with that thought passing across my peanut.
And I don't really want to face the fact that America is stupid.
Come on.
I don't want to face the fact that they disagree with me, so I'm going to scream about there being fraud. That doesn't sound like a good reason to me.
Stupid.
Come on.
How could America decide to put a man in office when the economy was doing great?
But are we talking about the same economy? Are we talking about 2020, the last year that Trump had in office? The economy was not doing great at all. What are you talking about? At no point in the last 2 years that Trump held office was the economy great. What?
Our stature in the world was being elevated when
No, we had lost respect massively, dramatically across the world stage when Trump was president to an obnoxious degree. Our world respect rose by a pretty good bit when Biden took office.
I had to put a man in office when the economy was doing great, when our stature in the world was being elevated, when China was pushed back on her heels, when Europe was starting to pay their fair share of NATO. And
dude, what is he even talking? This is all just nonsense propaganda from Donald Trump and his campaign.
we looked at it, and this man got the highest percentage of minority votes of any president that was ever Republican.
That was ever Republican. Oh, okay. See, that's a nice little distinction you made there. Not the highest minority vote of any president that's ever existed or of any presidential candidate in history. No, of any Republican. Okay, that's a pretty important distinction to make.
That was ever Republican. He got 12 million more votes than Obama did when Obama was reelected. And
that's because there were more people voting. And I don't even know if that's a correct figure. Don't trust a word out of these people's mouths. Look it up yourself first. There were more people voting, but you know who got even more votes than Trump? Hillary Clinton and Biden. Both got way more votes than Trump for both elections. So I'm sorry you don't like that. I'm sorry that you feel like the country is stupid for voting differently than you, but that's democracy, baby. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. And you can't scream foul when you lose, like Donald Trump did. He chose to do it that way anyways, of course.
It's so much easier to believe it's fraud. It goes down easier. I can swallow that. Because
what was that saying? I feel like, wait, didn't Mario Murillo repeat this like over and over? What was it? Facts don't care about your feelings. That's the one. It was on the tip of my tongue. Right. Facts don't care about your feelings, Mario. I don't care what goes down easier. You lost. Deal with it. Or are you going to cry over it like your old buddy Dutch Sheets did?
I went to over in the corner and I grabbed a flag we had and I wrapped it around me. And I laid on the floor, and I sobbed, and I knew I was crying with him.
With God.
I knew we were crying together for this nation, Gene. And it became so intense that at one point I said, and I meant this. This was not hype, or I'm not trying to be sensational here. I said, God, please, you have to stop this. Because my heart is literally going to break and I'm going to die. And I said, please don't kill me. So for 3.5 hours this happened, and here's what he said to me at one point. And I know this was God. And I could never, ever, ever be convinced this wasn't God. He said, I must have this nation.
Imagine Dutch Sheets wrapped in an American flag, lying on the floor crying for 3 hours because he lost an election or whatever, because things weren't going the way he wanted politically, because his guy didn't get into office. Crying on the ground with God, draped in an American flag, and begging God to fix things. Who's the snowflake now? Who is it that's really facts over feelings? I'm just putting it out there. I'm just knock it around the old noggin for a minute. So again, Mario, I really don't care if you think it's ridiculous or you can't handle it if things didn't go your way. I don't care.
And it's so much easier to believe it's fraud. It goes down easier.
I could not possibly care less if you think it goes down easier. Mario Murillo is ultimately an extremist, a fundamentalist, who is extremely critical of the LGBT community, and every single week goes out here and tries to faith heal people. He does faith healing on people.
And then this moment will come when the healing power of God will come, like on that man up there in the blue with a heart condition. And God is healing you.
Pretends to heal people for clout, for money, and it's disgusting. there is nothing about this guy's beliefs that are worthy of respect to any degree. If you disagree with me on anything that I've said, or hell, if you agree with anything I've said, let me know what you think in the comments or on Twitter at Telltale Atheist.